Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for inviting me to this meeting and providing me the opportunity to address the two committees. I have myself been a parliamentarian for 25 years, and I appreciate very much the crucial role that parliaments and also the European Parliament plays in our democracies. And I very much look forward to interact with you. I will have an introduction and then I will leave time for questions and comment afterwards. I will not cover all possible issues in my introductory remarks, but I will outline some of the main challenges we are facing, and then we can leave the rest for the discussion afterwards. But I will start by telling you that I'm a strong supporter of closer cooperation between the European Union and NATO. I believe that we can achieve more if we work more closely together. And we are two organizations which share the same values. We believe in open, free, democratic societies. And we are sharing the same security environment. We are facing the same challenges and the same threats. And 22 of the members of the European Union states are also members of the NATO alliance, and more than 90% of the population in the European Union live in countries which are members of NATO. So we are two different organizations with different tasks and different responsibilities, but we have also very much in common, and therefore we are cooperating, and we should also look into how we can further develop our cooperation. It has always been important that the European Union and NATO cooperates, but I think it is especially important now because we are living in a time where we see fundamental changes in our security environment. We see new threats, we see new challenges. We see them emanating from the East as a consequence of the behavior of Russia, a more assertive Russia, responsible for aggressive actions in Ukraine, using force, military force, to change borders, to annex a part of another country. But we also see threats and challenges emanating from the South. Throughout the Middle East, through North Africa, we see turmoil, barbaric violence, ISIL, and this is close to our borders. And there are also links between the turmoil and the violence we see in the Middle East, North Africa, and the terrorist attacks we see in our own streets in Europe. The terrorist attacks, both in Paris but also in Copenhagen, were inspired by the ideology of hatred, of violence, which ISIL and other terrorist organizations represents. So we are together facing a new security environment, and an environment which poses new challenges on both the European Union and NATO. And therefore, I would like to underline that what we do and what we don't do will be of great importance for the years ahead. We are living in pivotal times, times which is going to be of great importance for generations to come, how we are facing the challenges we are facing both from the East and from the South. And I would like to start by just reminding you on the fact that NATO for 40 years did collective defense deterrence in Europe, and we provided security deterrence for all allies, and we did so without firing a single shot. That was from our foundation in 1948 to the end of the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. Then, after the end of the Cold War, we started to have our main focus on crisis management, managing crisis which could pose a threat on ourselves, on European countries and the United States, North America. And we did so by conducting operations in the Balkans, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, Kosovo, in Afghanistan, fighting piracy off the Horn of Africa, and also in Libya. The new challenge now is that we have to continue with managing crisis out of area. And at the same time, we have to increase our focus on collective defense in Europe. And this is for the first time in the history of the alliance. We have to do both collective defense in Europe and crisis management out of area at the same time. And this will require a lot from all of us. And I will outline 3 areas where I see a great potential for increased cooperation between NATO and the European Union, and 3 areas where we can work together to face the new security environment which we have to address. The first area I will mention is building resilience together. And by saying that, I mean that we can work together in strengthening our defense, in facing new threats, like, for instance, hybrid warfare. We have seen that being developed especially by Russia in Ukraine. That's a combination of using military means and non-military means, overt and covert actions, cyber, information, and deception. And this means that we have to be able to face this multifaceted challenge in a multifaceted way. NATO has some unique capabilities, competence. The European Union has others, and we have to work together. And just to inform you or to tell you a bit about what NATO is doing, is that we are increasing the readiness of our forces. We are doubling the size of the NATO response force from 13,000 to 30,000. We are establishing, as part of this enhanced NATO response force, a spearhead force, a very high readiness joint task force, and the lead elements of this force will be able to move within as little as 48 hours. In addition, we are also establishing command and control units in the 3 Baltic countries, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria. We are increasing we have already increased our military presence in the eastern part of the alliance with more planes in the air policing, ships at sea, and also more forces on the ground doing exercises and increasing our military presence in the eastern part of the alliance. This is a response to what we have seen in Ukraine. It's defensive, it's proportionate, and it's completely in line with all our international commitments. But we believe that it is of great importance because NATO has been and should also in the future be able to provide deterrence and be able to protect all allies against any threat. And that's the reason why we are investing in our collective defense. the most substantial increase in our collective defense since the end of the Cold War. The other area where I see a potential for cooperation with the European Union is when it comes to building resilience together with our neighbors. And that is, for instance, both with our neighbors to the east of the European Union and to the east of NATO, but also in the south. Countries like Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, they are partners of NATO. They are cooperating with the European Union. They have all chosen to move on the path towards Europe, sharing our values, and we should work closely with them. They are all under pressure from Russia. We should support them and strengthen their ability to withstand the intimidation which Russia is posing on them. And again, there are roles for the European Union and there are tasks for NATO. What we are doing is that we are working with these countries to help them modernize, reform their defense sector, building institutions, and that's part of reforming their societies. And I know that the European Union is doing important work on, for instance, reform, building political institutions, building good governance, and fighting corruption. And I believe that the partnership, the cooperation with our neighbors in the East will be an important issue at the Eastern Partnership Summit of the European Union and the Eastern partners later on this year in Riga. Working with our partners in the East is an area where we are working together and we have the same goals. That's also the case when we look to the South. NATO is working with partners in the South to try to help them to increase their capacity, to stabilize their own countries, to fight terror, and also to contribute to a more stable development in their region. We work, for instance, with Jordan. Jordan is a country, a stable country is an island of stability in a sea of instability in the Middle East. We are now assessing a request from the government of Iraq, looking into how NATO can help Iraq with reforms, with institution building, with increasing their education capacity within defense, training and so on. All this to try to increase the ability of Iraq to fight terror and to create a more stable development in the country. We also stand ready to work with Libya on defense capacity building when the security situation allows. Again, these are countries, these are regions where also the European Union is doing important work. The more we can work together, the more we can achieve. And if these countries are more stable, we are more secure. And the whole thing is that we believe that we can be able to project stability without always deploying large number of forces, but then we have to work with our partners, help them, support them, and thereby enabling them to create stability and security by themselves. And finally, the third area where I will focus, or where I believe there is a great potential for working together, the European Union and NATO, is on the defense investment. Because it's not possible to increase our military capabilities. It's not possible to do more exercising, more training, to provide collective security, collective defense, and at the same time support our partners in the East and in the South without investing more in defense. And we all have to I think you all know that since 1990 and up till today, there has been a steady decline in the defense expenditure of European NATO allies. And also last year, 2014, we saw increase in our security challenges. We saw ISIL, we saw the aggressive actions of Russia in Ukraine. So in 2014, threats increased, but defense spending decreased by 3% among European NATO allies. So last year, threats went up, defense spending went down. This cannot continue. And this is both about our total spending in defense, but it's also about burden sharing. I just visited the United States and Canada, and the question in the United States was always, when shall the Europeans do more? The GDP, the national income of European NATO allies, is almost exactly as big as the GDP of the United States. Despite that, the United States spends more than twice as much on defense as we do. And they are responsible for around 70% of NATO's total defense expenditure. And this is not sustainable. And therefore, I very much welcome that all European NATO allies, also then meaning many European Union members, decided last fall on what we call the Defence Investment Pledge, where we promised to stop the cuts and to gradually increase investments in defence as our economies grows, aiming at, as our economies grow, aiming at the 2% guideline within a decade. So this is something we just have to do, because we can always focus on smarter ways of spending the money, on efficiency, on pooling and sharing, and I'm in favor of all of that, and we are working with the European Union on ways to spend smarter, to increase efficiency. But in the long run, it's not possible to get more out of less. So the time has come to invest more in defense, because reality, the world has changed. And therefore I welcome the very clear pledge of NATO allies, European and North American NATO allies, that we have to increase investments in defense. I will end by just underlining that if we work together on resilience, both as partners and with our neighbors in the east and the south, if we invest more in defense, then the European Union and NATO will be able also in the future to defend our core values of open democratic societies. And those core values are the basic fundament both for NATO and for the European Union. And therefore, we should be able to work even closer together in the future. Thank you for your attention. I'm ready for your questions.